Lori Vallow hiding behind a mask. This is a totally unplanned episode because I didn't know that Lori would be appearing in court yesterday. I noticed that nearly all the crime channels are now talking about Lori Vallow. Chris Watts seems to be yesterday's news, and I actually think that's a good thing to an extent. For the family of Shanann, I'll always be interested in the Watts case, and I certainly haven't finished talking about it because I think there is more to come with that case. Not in terms of conspiracy theories. I've never bought into the conspiracy theories, but there's always something else with that case. Some are still trying to milk the Watts case for all it's worth, and I'm sure if something else major happens with the Watts case, people will talk about it. It's one of these cases that will stay with us forever. So anyway, in this episode, I want to talk about the things in the Lori Vallow case that don't make sense. And I want to start off with Lori's court appearance. The mask that she had on, it was simply just because she doesn't want people to see who she really is. She's using the COVID mask to disguise her face. And I think a lot of narcissists and sociopaths do that. They try to hide behind a mask, a facade. They don't want people to see who they really are. I found Lori's demeanor to be very offensive. The fact that she demanded to be referred to as Mrs. Daybell, I think says a lot about her lack of empathy. Once again, I'm always using that word with regard to her. I think she has a lack of empathy. She's only cares about herself, doesn't really even acknowledge her son. I could see Colby was really struggling internally. She's changed so much in his eyes. To find out that your mother has been so deceitful must be something that he's still trying to process. But I also want to talk about some other things that I find quite baffling in this case that I'm still trying to make sense of. Janice Cox says that the children weren't missing to her, that they weren't missing to her daughter. There was a manhunt out for her children, but they weren't missing to her. So her mother was saying that Lori didn't think her kids were missing. And it's like, what planet is this woman on? There's a manhunt out for your children and you're gallivanting in Hawaii and you haven't heard from your grandchildren. I mean, Tylee could have easily picked up the phone and called her grandmother to say, hey, I'm fine. That never happened. And she didn't question it. Also, why would you bury those bodies in the backyard? They had all the land, all the spaces, all the areas in Yellowstone National Park. Doesn't make sense that they would be that stupid. But I'm glad that they were that stupid. Because if they weren't that stupid, those kids may have never been found. Melanie Pulowski lived next door to Lori for quite some time. She never sees the children and she's not remotely concerned or wondering where those kids are. That's one of the things that is really baffling. I'm simply trying to make sense and I simply can't. So either she was in on the whole cult thing or she's just devoid. And Lori's sister Summer says she thinks it's so unfair that Lori has been treated the way she has. We should soften our hearts towards Lori Vallow because she really is a loving, sweet, warm person. Really? No, she's not. And her mother says she felt she was keeping the children safe and the kids weren't missing to her, like I said before. Oh, really now? The kids had been missing since September. Lori and Chad got married in November, so several weeks would have passed that she didn't have any contact with those kids. And she doesn't call the police, and she makes up all these lies about the kids staying at Melanie Gibbs' house and staying at the grandmother's house. And we're supposed to believe that she had nothing to do with this murder. She just concealed evidence. And Summer says, if Alex wasn't there the day that Charles was ambushed, the kids would have been on the news for a very different reason. Alex saved the day. No, he didn't. Alex was the family hitman. It's not even a laughing matter. And yet still, she's only charged with whatever. Until there is murder charges, I almost think it's irrelevant. The charges still need to be upgraded. But another thing is, do you remember, Lori, in your podcast, you were saying how much you wanted to help people and something about agency? How's that working out for you? You haven't helped anyone, Lori. You've helped yourself to a bag of cash and a new life with Mr. Dumbbell in paradise. What did you see in him, Lori? You had a husband who took care of you and your kids. You know what it is? She was looking for cheap thrills, and a lot of people with personality disorders, they look for thrills. They are excitement seeking. Charles Vallow just wasn't exciting anymore. Looking after a special needs child just wasn't exciting anymore. That's one of the reasons why she married 5 times. She was always seeking that new excitement, that honeymoon period, that new high. And by the way, Melanie Pawlowski's insensitive comment about Tylee would be giving the biggest eye roll about all the fuss people are making over this case is really, really offensive. Just goes to show she has no compassion, no personality whatsoever. And she didn't really care about Tylee. But, you know, she lived next door to Laura for quite some time. And you're telling me that she never, ever thought it was strange, that she never, ever saw the kids. She never asked, where are the kids? She never, you know, whatever answer Lori would have given her, would it really have made sense? I mean, JJ was a special needs child. So how is it that she could have gotten away with not having these kids with her for so long? And why wasn't she wearing a jumpsuit in court? You know, all of these things she gets away with. People let it slide. You know, it's time to upgrade the charges. It really is time to upgrade the charges.